For those that are aware, my room is currently destroyed because we are getting a new carpet tomorrow, new bed on Wednesday. So anyways, I don't know what to revise today, to be completely honest with you guys. I don't. I haven't done much today, but really merits revision. You know what I mean? I guess we could just go through some of the revision books, see if anything pops out of interest. But I don't know. If any of you guys want me to revise anything, let me know. Enzymes. Alright, I'll go quickly write them down. We got carbohydrates. We got proteases. We got lipases. What else we got? That's all it says here, but I know there's also amylases. And I believe, obviously, carbohydrates are for carbohydrates, proteases are for proteins, lipases are for lipids, and I'm not sure what amylases are for. I believe it's starch. But those are enzymes, and enzymes are obviously the lock and key method. Where it's if it becomes too warm, they denature, which means they won't be able to fit in. Which is why I guess don't boil yourself alive, I guess. Maybe that's a good idea. I don't know what to revise, guys, seriously. We could go through English. I think English could be a decent one, actually. Let's do some English. English literature we'll do today. I know Ellis is currently in the midst of revising this, and he did Storm on the Island and Prelude. So I guess, I mean, I've already done these in detail on stream, so maybe we'll do them some other day, but for now, let's work on, I'm just going to pick 3 random ones. We'll do The Emigre, War Photographer, and Checking Out Me History. Now, why have I picked the 3 most difficult, except for tissue? Why have I picked the 3 worst ones? Because these are the ones that I don't like, which means if they come up in the exam, I'm fucked. So, I mean, first of all, I need to actually find it. I need to find the book with the poems in, which is easier said than done, because my room is currently all destroyed. If I can't find any, I may need to use my computer to find the poems, or unless any of you guys could like recite it line for line. Damn, where could it be? There it is. Okay. Ow. A JMC Arts. Okay. So, obviously, again, these are, in my opinion at least, the worst ones. Tissue is shit. Like, it is horrendous. But I think that's it, in terms of difficulty. Like, you got Kamikaze's nice. You got... The Prelude is alright. Storm on the Island's alright. Exposure's so generic, but it's alright. Charge of the Light Brigade is quite nice. My Last Duchess can piss off. Like, it's easy to understand, but it's just so boring. If we get that in the exam, I'd die of boredom. So yeah, let's go do the emigre first. Whatever that is in my analogy. Oh, poppies! I flippin' forgot poppies. That's such a shit one. But I hate it. I see, if I see any of these bullets in my head, it is evil. Should we do poppies first then? Because I flippin' hate poppies. The reason I'm not swearing is because I don't know whether YouTube it does something to my streams, but it seems like the more I swear, the less they get viewed. So maybe I'll no, I'm not gonna censor myself. Fuck off. Right. Poppies. So I'm only gonna do like the spark notes, I guess. I'm not gonna like do annotations and shit. I'm gonna just talk about the structure and stuff. So poppies. I wrote somewhere here the fact that this poem could link into Bayonet Charge, because both poems take place from an individual's perspective. So here it's like this mother being all sad, and it's kind of a personal story, but it applies to many people, not just one person. Same with Bayonet Charge. It takes place from the eyes of a single soldier, but that exact same experience was happening to millions. So if you get a question about poppies, you could liken it. If it talks about the effects of war, use Bayonet Charge. Bayonet Charge is so boring though. I hate that one. Anyways, poppies, you could talk about the use of commas, or I don't know how you pronounce this, caesuras, I don't know, some goofy English word, and those symbolize grief. So if you're talking about the structure, talk about the use of commas. It shows the inner emotion of the narrator, who is composed, because her poem's not like deeply depressing, but she is breaking with sadness on the inside. So these reflect the inner emotion. So I guess in a way, if you get a question about inner conflict, you could talk about poppies, but who the fuck would optionally choose poppies? You know what I mean? Okay, so the first bit here, the first chunk of a poem, 3 days before Armistice Sunday, and poppies had already been placed on individual wall graves. Before you left, I pinned onto your lapel crimped petals, spasms of paper red, disrupting a blockade of yellow bias binding around your blazer. So in other words, what she's saying here is, I guess, it jumps in time. There's a shift in time you could talk about there, because it talks about 3 days before the Sunday, and then obviously we're jumping back in time to before this person died. You could talk about the fact that colour is used here. For example, red could connote death, violence, blood, quite gory colours. And the use of the word spasms is almost war terminology, kind of violent words seeping in to regular conversation, which shows that the mother's inner conflict. She feels deeply upset by the war to a point where it's influencing everything that she's saying. I also highlighted here the use of yellow bias. Bias could refer to the sides in war. Anyways, sellotape bandaged around my hand. I rounded up as many white cut hairs as I could, smoothed down your shirts, upturned collar, steeled the softening of my face. So here, this could be two meanings here. You could almost have this be almost like a mother saying goodbye to their child, literally sending them off to war, Or this could be like a school kid, like their first day of school or something. Like just saying, "Oh, goodbye," have a cracking day. I wanted to graze my nose across the tip of your nose, play out being Eskimos like we did when you were little. I resisted the impulse to run my fingers through the gelled black thorns of your hair. And there, I put black thorns could refer to this kid having a prickly attitude to his mother. But right here, it says, all my words flattened, rolled, turned into felt. So I put felt is tough, a barrier hiding her emotions. So felt symbolically represents a wall in her mind, concealing the darkness. Slowly melting, I was brave as I walked with you to the front door, threw it open, the world overflowing like a treasure chest. So here, she is enthusiastic about the son's future. She is happy, so it's a tone shift. So I guess there's many shifts in this. There's a shift of time. There's a shift of time and a shift of tone. Two good things to talk about. A split second and you were aware. Intoxicated. Intoxicated here is quite abrupt. It almost seems out of place, but it shows how the son has been taken by the war. He's been almost drugged by it and he can't stop. After you'd gone, I went into your bedroom, released a songbird from its cage. Later, a single dove flew from the pear tree, and this is where it had led me. I don't think she walked into his room, got like his pet parrot and like pulled a cage open. That seems a bit weird. I think instead it's more metaphorical. Like she walks in and she almost releases a songbird, I guess, emotion. She releases her emotions, probably crying or something like that, because your son's dead, isn't he? So, you're going to be obviously a bit sad at that. Skirting the churchyard walls, my stomach busy, making tucks, darts, pleats, hatless without a winter coat or reinforcements of scarf, gloves. So here, I talked about how there's been a huge jump in time. I also put how chaos, there is chaos here. All the list of adjectives here, the list of verbs is chaos. It's kind of chaotic, jumping around. The word reinforcement shows how she is seeing the grave without protection, without reinforcement. She is no longer guarded by her emotions. She is not hiding from it anymore. Then it says, on reaching the top of a hill, I traced the inscriptions on the war memorial, leaned against it like a wishbone. The dove pulled freely against the sky, an ornamental stitch. I listened, hoping to hear your playground voice catching on the wind. Quite a lot here. Number one, traced connotes gentleness, almost like childlike. The use of wishbone seems out of place, and it highlights the lifeless remains of what happened. Wishbone, in a way, could even mean that it's lazily placed. So, like, you have this big, like, memorial here with all this text on. I was like, they're lazily placed. Like, barely any effort was put into remembering them. Oh, here. First person means we are placed into the mother's mind. We get to experience her events and emotions as if they were ours. 3 verses convey the structureless nature of grief, no pattern, unending, short. And it is a lament for the dead. Nice. Alright. Oh, Jesus, look at all the shit I did for bloody war photographer. So there you go. For this one, you could talk about grief in an emotion being symbolized by the caesuras. You could talk about the multiple shifts in time and tone. You could talk about, even right at the end, how it kind of leaves it a little vague, Will she hear the voice again? Has she moved on? Has she not? You could talk about that. Next, war photographer. I don't like this one because I was ill while we were doing it. So no, I'm sorry, I don't know this one too well. In his dark room, he is finally alone, with spools of suffering set out in ordered rows. Alright, immediately there, that's obviously a sibilant sound, and that reinforces almost the endless nature of suffering. Suffering is juxtaposed by the word ordered to contrast the messy, violent nature of war. Third person here isolates our protagonist, or our subject. It isolates him further. We are distanced from the action here. So in this poem, it's inner conflict in a way of the effects of war. It highlights how he, despite no longer being in the war, it's almost like he's still in it. He's suffering a fuck ton. The only light is red and softly glows. Light could reflect holiness, almost peace, but it's juxtaposed with red, violence, death, blood, gore. Softly glows, once again, it kind of juxtaposes the red. As though this were a church, and he, a priest, preparing to intone a mass. So I guess religious imagery there. Belfast, Beirut, Phnom Penh, I don't know how to pronounce that. All flesh is grass. That is, of course, gruesome imagery quite there to highlight the sheer quantity of death. So many bodies have been piled up from war that it's almost like the grass, something we associate with life, with peace, nature, happiness. It's not that, is it? It's dead bodies. He has a job to do. Solutions slop in trays beneath his hands, which did not tremble then, but seem to now. So what she's kind of saying there is, when he was taking these horrendous photos, he was all right. He didn't feel much. But now that he's actually seeing them and thinking about them, alone with his thoughts, not surrounded by anything, it's messing him up. Rural England. I put that cuts off this area from others. So this whole poem is about isolation. He's isolated in his mind. He's isolated with the thoughts and the remnants of war. Rural England, home again, to ordinary pain which simple weather can dispel, to field which don't explode beneath the feet of running children in a nightmare heat. So of course this is meant to convey, I guess, adrenaline, but he's also just reminiscing on the horrors. Also, the enjambment reflects his running memory here. It's playing over and over in his head, isn't it? Solution could have double meaning there. It could literally refer to an answer, like he's looking for the reason why war's happening, but it could also refer to, obviously, solution. Something is happening. A stranger's features faintly start to twist before his eyes. A half-formed ghost. So this is, of course, a declarative. It creates suspense. Are these his memories, or is this just a photo being developed? It leaves you feeling a little bit uncomfortable, thinking, is this guy really, like, that fucked up? He remembers the cries of this man's wife, how he sought approval without words to do what someone must, and how the blood stained into foreign dust. So here he's asking, is this morally okay? Is him taking photos of dying people alright? 100 agonies in black and white, from which, so we have a time jump here, from which his editor will pick out 5 or 6 for Sunday's supplement. So Sunday, of course, again, holy imagery here. It contrasts the terrible nature of war. 5 or 6 shows the fact that nobody really cares about his suffering. He almost questions the ethics of war photography, but it almost highlights the short-lived nature of pain. The reader's eyebrows prick with tears beneath a bath and pre-lunch beers. So again, this highlights the fact that, yeah, maybe it'll make one or two people look a little sad, but to be fair, it's every day. It doesn't really matter. From the aeroplane, he stares impassively at where he earns his living, and they do not care. So he's staring down at this battlefield thinking, well, it's time to make some bread. So, plenty of things to talk about there. You could talk about the religious imagery, but also inner conflict. So if you get asked about inner conflict and Puppies or War Photographer is your poem, that's pretty decent, honestly. Both use shifts of tone, juxtaposition in this, and actual physical shifts of tone in Puppies. Both are quite good for talking about inner conflict, guys. Right, we're almost done here. I'm going to go grab a quick drink because I am in need of a drink. And then we'll continue with the emigre. Okay. So this one would be good to talk about identity. There was once a country. I left it as a child, but my memory of it is sunlight clear. Obviously, right away you want to talk about sunlight being almost an allusion to the past here. The fact that it says there was once a country is an allusion to the past. The poet has almost distanced herself from the past. For it seems I never saw it that November, which I am told comes to the mildest city. The worst news I receive of it cannot break my original view. The bright filled paperweight, it may be at war, it may be sick with tyrants, but I am branded by an impression of sunlight. Okay, repetition of B brands this line with the same sound. A child's vocabulary, whatever, makes it almost a childlike understanding of innocence. So here she's almost confused by this whole ordeal. There are many connotations for the next line, so look here. The white streets of that city, obviously white could refer to literally pure, free from war, but obviously white people, innit? She's far away from, the graceful slopes grow even clearer as time rolls its tanks. Tanks could even refer to war here, an illusion of her past. The T sound is once again alliteration. And the frontiers rise between us, close like waves. That child's vocabulary I carried here, like a hollow doll, opens and spills a grammar. So, doll, I guess you could talk about how that's childlike, an illusion of the past. Basically, for this poem, it's an illusion to past. And also the sun plays good imagery here. Soon I shall have every coloured molecule of it. It may by now be a lie, banned by the state, but I can't get it off my tongue. It tastes of sunlight. Sunlight here is a literary device. Light imagery at first implies welcomeness, but it turns to dark as people turn against her. So now sunlight almost has a bitter taste. It's almost kind of bad in a way. Again, B alliteration conveys her power by not letting other letters appear. Conveys the state's power, the ruling constrictive nature of those in power. I have no passport, there's no way back at all, but my city comes to me in its own white plain. Again, repetition of white conveys the bleaching or whitewashing of the past. It lies down in front of me, docile as paper. I comb its hair and love its shining eyes. So it personifies her country as something innocent, but also something full of hope and peace and not war. Shining, again, represents this. My city takes me dancing through the city. Repetition of city just kind of shows how her mind is thinking of all the good times. the city of walls. Her walls could refer to her mind, how it's almost blocked it up. They accuse me of absence, they circle me. They accuse me of being dark in their free city. A double meaning there, literally racism, but also light imagery, which at first was meant to represent good, but now represents evil. My city hides behind me, they mutter death, and my shadow falls as evidence of sunlight. So it shows how her country was perfect, and yet now it is not. You could also talk about white plane possibly being an aeroplane. Finally, let's do checking out my history. Them tell me what they want to tell me. Okay, so repetition, of course, shows his anger. This poem is an accusation, in a way. It reinforces his anger. He is not learning about his past, he is learning about their past. Bandage up me eye with me own history, blind me to me own identity. The use of local dialect here, non-standard English, it shows his culture. He feels his background isn't shown, so he's reinforcing it in his poem. It also has an upbeat tone, despite using quite a lot of accusations. It's quite jolly. You can kind of have a bit of a groove to it. Them tell me about 1066 and all that. Them tell me about Dick Whittington and the cat. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. Twisson's Overture? I don't know. I don't speak. I assume this is... It seems like a French name, actually. No, them never told me about that. So, here, he's talking about Dick Whittington and his cat, which is, I believe, a fictional character. So it almost shows how he thinks he's using a child's rhyme here to reinforce the idea that he thinks their history is useless. He's being taught useless things. They're covering up his history on purpose. So it says the word but reinforces a break from what they tell him. So he's talked about two things that they teach him, but he's broken it up with his own history now. Twissant, I don't know if that's right. A slave with vision, lick back, which obviously means defeated him. Napoleon Battalion and First Black Republic born. I can't pronounce his name. I don't want to offend anyone here. Defawn to the French, the beacon of the Haitian revolution. Beacon obviously refers to light imagery. There is an occasional rhyme here, but it's irregular in a way. It's in unconventional form to show the unconventional ideas. Then tell me about the man who discovered the balloon and the man who jumped over the moon. The cow who jumped over the moon. Obviously a cartoon here. They tell me about the dish but ran away with the spoon, but they never tell me about Nanny de Maroon. So a semantic field of childhood shows how he's lost his childhood. He's lost his actual childhood to their childhood. So Nanny the Maroon led Maroons to Jamaican victory against the British. Fuck the British. Nanny, seafarer woman of mountain dream, fire woman, struggle, hopeful stream to freedom river. Stream, of course, reinforces the idea of freedom. Seafarer woman is almost nature imagery here, almost making her seem like an ethereal, kind of, out of this world. He's telling us about his history in his own terms, and again, a light imagery. So he's using light imagery to talk about the past. So again, Emigre is a perfect one to compare to this. Both use light imagery. Them tell me about Lord Nelson and Waterloo. So Lord Nelson was a British admiral who defeated the French. So in a way, he's almost saying the British have bigged themselves up, made themselves look like tough twats, but really, them never tell me about Shaka the Great Zulu. He united the Zulus against the other tribes. Them tell me about Columbus, obviously Christopher Columbus, a bit of a scumbag. of 1492. But what happened to the Caribs, guys in Caribbeans, and the I don't want to pronounce this, guys. I don't want to mess this up because, you know. But they were natives who suffered greatly. Okay, if I mispronounce that, it's going to look like I'm ignorant. Then tell me about Florence Nightingale and her lamp, who actually did fight during the Crimean War, kind of helped her. And how Robin Hood used to camp. Robin Hood was a fictional character, I believe. Was he real? I don't know. Then tell me about Old King Cole was a merry old soul, who, in a way, it's meant to almost be like, these fictional characters are deemed more important than real stuff. But then never told me about Mary Seacole, who was similar to Florence Nightingale's contributions, but again, these fictional people are deemed more important than real. And the fact he's blending in real people with fictional shows how he's almost confused by the whole perspective. From Jamaica, she travelled far to the Crimean War. She volunteered to go, and even when the British said no, she still braved the Russian snow, a healing star among the wounded, a yellow sunrise to the dying. So this is quite a somber tune. It also just shows how scummy the British are, how authoritative they are. And finally, them tell me what they want to tell me, but now I checking out my own history, I carving out my own identity. So this is, of course, a cyclical structure, and it reinforces the word carving, almost like he's struggling. It requires effort to carve out his own history. He's angry at the British. And also I wrote here as a nice little finish, whoever controls the past controls the present, which is true. We have all been blinded by propaganda and, tales from those who have won. So it's an allegory on those who control history, the powerful. So there you go. So, poppies can be compared to war photographer, and me history can be compared to, don't call it that in the thing by the way, to the emigre. That's all I'm going to do for today, guys, because I think that's kind of it. I mean, what else do I really have to do? Like, I think tomorrow we're doing titration and stuff in chemistry. I will be very happy to go through that. But that's it. Be sure to check the Google document for daily updates. I update it daily, and you can find out all the information you need on not only revision, but just general learning stuff. Like, I put some useful stuff in there this morning. I attached every single subject to a link to one of these streams. I also added a couple interesting things like the the hand rule, the hand trick, which I was right. The hand trick is tan is bottom over top. So if I wanted to do tan 60, I would do 0, 30. It is 0, by the way. 0, 30, 45, 60, 90. So that would be 3. So the square root of 3 over the square root of 1, or 3 over 1. Just making sure you guys know that, because I kind of didn't, but now I will, which means in the exam, I now could pick up 5 marks just for knowing that. Anyways, that's all I'm doing. I want to show you guys quickly. Look at this, bro. So I have this is my setup right now. Look at this carpet, bro. Basically, this ain't a carpet at all. This is the underlayer of a carpet, because I'm getting a new carpet soon. And that means, for now, my original carpet's been absolutely torn up. And now I have a bunch of my family stuff in here in terms of boxes. So yeah, very convenient. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Check the Google document.